It's back to school time, and it seems it's also back to meme stock time. Back in February 2021, we spoke about a company called GameStop that surged from a price of about $1 to over $85. Now it looks like we're getting the next installment of the meme stock frenzy, and a few companies, including a US company called Bed Bath & Beyond, has been getting some headlines, with some believing that this could be related to college students returning after their summer break and basically beginning to gamble again. But before we get into that, Baylee, let's take a little step back, and maybe we could start with talking about what a meme stock actually is and why this is happening.
Sure. A meme stock is a stock that gains popularity among usually young retail investors through social media. And in terms of investing, you could describe it like a pendulum. When markets were first created, it was an easy way for people to gamble on speculative ventures, and there wasn't much financial information about those investments. A lot of decisions were psychology based and based around how people believed the market was influenced. Then, as more financial information became available alongside more regulation, data-driven investing took center stage. But now, with access to investing easier than ever, the pendulum has swung back to psychology in some cases, hence why we are seeing these meme stocks, which are usually relatively distressed, highly shorted companies getting pushed up by day trader enthusiasm.
Of course. Okay. So that's what we saw with GameStop. Around 140% of the company's shares had been sold short by large financial institutions like hedge funds that were betting that the share price would fall. But groups of retail investors focused on these companies to push the price up, which would mean the large investors would have to rush back in to buy shares to cover their short position, so causing that price to rise even further. But we're saying that college students returning to school is causing another wave of meme stocks. So what recent stories have we seen?
Probably the biggest story recently has been Bed Bath & Beyond, as you previously mentioned. One of the biggest headline stories was that a 20-year-old managed to crystallize a $110 million gain after he sold a 6% stake that he had. He bought the stock for under $5.50 and sold it for $27 just a few weeks later. You'd think that there'd been some really great news about the company, but actually the headline's been pretty bad, and the company had recently hired a restructuring specialist, which kind of hints at some financial problems. But the stock had soared. Again, Bed Bath & Beyond is one of the most heavily shorted stocks on the market. So as the stock rose, some short sellers repurchased shares to cover their bets, which then encourage more speculative traders to buy in. That cycle is great for investors when it works, but then it can suddenly stop working, sometimes just because a big investor decides to take some profit. And it just shows how fragile this type of investing is.
It's really interesting, and it's a great story to follow. I'd recommend anyone interested in it to read about the story. The guy who you were mentioning is a guy called Jake Freeman, who was a 20-year-old. So I would, have a look at that. But like, considering we innovative investors are certainly not day traders, what can we take away from this?
I think the main takeaway is that speculation can be a big driver of markets at times, and you usually see that in individual names rather than at a fund or index level. And for me, that underlines the importance of diversification to avoid that single name volatility and avoid those big bets that can lose a lot of money, even though there's been no new information.
Okay, so as a multi-asset fund manager, diversification is key to so much. I think the whole meme stock arena is so interesting. It's practically becoming its own industry at this stage. That whole FOMO and fear of missing out driving it. I should also mention GameStop is down 61% from its highs back in 2021 when we first spoke about this. Baylee, thank you so much this week. Always really interesting to speak to you. And we will be back again next week with another story that's caught our eye. Thanks very much.